Great. Well, first of all, I appreciate everybody for being here. I want to appreciate Southaven Police Department, specifically Chief Kern and members of his team who are here today as well. We're here today to talk about the shooting death of Reggie Carroll. I understand in the last 7 days there's been a lot of questions and public inquiry and obvious interest for a number of reasons. Most notably, it's the loss of life, and obviously we feel for the family and those that are left mourning. Mr. Carroll was well loved by many, and so obviously this is a hard time for people, and people want answers. And so unfortunately, at this stage, there's only so much we can share, but we do want to share what we can. So I think it was important to have this conference for a couple reasons. One, I want to kind of explain some of how the process actually unfolds, and then we'll share a little bit of the facts that we can. Mr. Carroll is not from here. He's from Baltimore, and so I know there's people in his community that are likely interested in, how does this process work? It's probably different than what they're used to. And so we just want to lay out the process and a little facts. So with that said, there was a call for service last week. The police department here in Southaven responded very quickly, and they started their investigation right away. As that investigation continues, more and more information comes in. That's shared with my office and the district attorney and members of my team. But it's definitely Southaven's investigation. We're just here to collaborate and help as needed at this point. It's not like on Law and Order or TV shows where everything's figured out in an hour-long episode and you got an investigation and a trial and all the aftermath all in 1 hour. It's obviously much more spread out than that. We have to wait on autopsies and medical examiners, things to be tested, and obviously have to go around talking to people that may have knowledge of the situation. All these things take a great deal of time, and while there's always an immediate interest in answers, I hope the public can feel a little bit comforted in knowing that we're not rushing our way through anything. While we're diligent and we act immediately, we don't rush through this because the gravity of the situation requires us to be very thorough. And the Southaven Police Department always does a great job of that. This is no exception. So as they continue to gather information and complete their investigation, at some point when all that's done, they'll put together what we call a district attorney packet, where whatever has not already been shared with my office then is shared with our office. At that point, we consider that kind of a handoff of the file from the Southaven Police to my office, and we can then prepare it for presentation to a grand jury. The way a grand jury works is we show them the evidence that we have, and they determine, is there probable cause that a crime committed, is there probable cause that this person committed that crime, and then they make the formal charging decisions. From there, the general process is someone would be served with an indictment, notifying them of what charge or charges that they received, and then the case proceeds through the normal circuit court process like any other case, where each defendant will get a court date for a potential plea or a potential trial. And that's the process. When you're waiting on outside entities to do their job in terms of replying to warrant requests or testing things or crime labs or medical examiner reports, anything like that, there's always a little bit of waiting around to get everything complete. But so the timeline can vary, but we do strive to make sure justice is dealt just as quickly and as reasonably as possible. So that's kind of the long view of what happens. In the short term, Traynell Williams, the defendant in this case, who has been arrested and charged with murder, he is entitled to certain preliminary proceedings that take place in the Southaven Municipal Court prior to a grand jury. At some point, he's entitled to a preliminary hearing and a bond hearing. Originally, it was scheduled for today. They usually try to schedule those as quickly as they can. It is going to be continued for another week. Whenever we're in the early stages, we generally try to do things as fast or as slow as the defense requests as it relates to their initial hearings, because that's a right for the defendant. We received a request to hold off for a week on any of the preliminary hearings, so we will at least wait a week for that. In the meantime, he will continue to be held with no bond, and that's kind of where we're at in the process. Sometimes those preliminary matters in court will happen very early. Sometimes we get to grand jury before that gets all the way dealt with. Time will tell in this matter. So that's kind of long and short of the process, so you can tell it just naturally takes some time. And at each stage we will obviously work as diligently as possible, and obviously the police do as well. As far as the facts of the case go, I hope that people can be understanding of the fact that in order to protect the integrity of this process, which is obviously going to garner some attention based on the status of our victim, we have to be a little bit limited in what we can share so that our court proceedings that I just outlined keep their integrity, and we don't have to worry about certain legal procedures or hurdles that come from saying too much too soon. So with that said, I'll share with you what I think I can. Basically, like I said, there's a call for service related to a shooting incident on Barton Lane here in Southaven. It was last Wednesday, round about 6:30. That kind of time frame, anyways. Police arrived on scene very quickly. When they got there, there were two people. You had Traynell Williams and Reggie Carroll. So we have our shooter and our victim. They were both there. The police immediately kind of quartered them off to where they could make room to give aid or make life-saving attempts for Mr. Carroll. Quite frankly, at that point, he had already received multiple wounds. But as a matter of course, the police did every reasonable effort to try to help. Mr. Carroll was transported to the hospital where they could continue to try to help. At some point in the process, Mr. Carroll succumbed to those injuries. While that was going on, the investigation began. They did everything that you would ordinarily expect in an investigation to, take pictures, gather evidence, talk to people that may have knowledge of anything related to this, and ultimately they developed Traynell Williams as a suspect. They believed through their diligent and thorough efforts that probable cause existed for an arrest warrant. An arrest warrant was signed by a judge, and Mr. Williams was taken into custody same night. I do want to dispel a few, rumors that may be going around. This was an incident between two roommates that knew each other. One of them is from California, one of them is from Maryland. This is not an indication that there's a problem in that community or neighborhood. This is not indicative of a violent crime issue in our city. It's just an isolated event that's limited to those two people involved. I know, and I don't want to gratuitously name drop, but based on their jobs as and their professions in the comedy world, they obviously run in the same circles with the same comedians. I want it to be clear that there's never been any reason before or now to believe that any of those comedians or organizations, business organizations, were involved in any way in what happened. This was a residence where only the shooter and the victim lived. This was not a resident of any other comedian or person. And, we've determined this is a very isolated thing. And so it is, when you have two people in a house and one of them loses their life and the other gets taken into custody by the police, there's not going to be much sharing of information about what happened right away, because you have one body in the hospital and one body at the police station, and neither of them had the ability to communicate to the outside world what happened. So other interested people that knew them, families, friends, business associates, probably didn't even know that Mr. Carroll was deceased until well after the fact, and they certainly were not present or involved. So with that, as I mentioned, I am joined by Chief Kern. We kind of talked ahead of time and agreed that I would kind of outline some of these things, but we're both here. We will field questions if you have any. Please understand, like I said, it may be limited on what we can answer, but we'll certainly answer the ones that we think we can.
Can you say what led to the shooting? Was it an argument? And then
So I'm not going to get into the specifics of motives or build-ups or who did what. I just don't think this is. I understand that's a pressing question. That's just part of the case that's going to have to come out in court.
While the defense needed a week to, I guess, defend their client, how is it for your office? Are you all ready to bring those charges in court?
Yeah, we're scheduled for preliminary matters. We're certainly ready for that whenever they are. If they wanted to do it today, we would have done it today. If they want to wait a week, we'll wait a week. If they want to wait longer, we can wait longer. That's a defense right to have a preliminary hearing or a bond hearing. And so we'll be ready whenever they get around to asserting that right. So, any other questions?
So it is, the house is owned by Cat Williams, is that right?
The house is not owned by Cat Williams. It was a rental property. There was another out-of-state company that was leasing the house, and the Traynell Williams and Reggie Carroll were the two tenants of that house. So it was not Cat Williams' house. And I was trying to avoid names, but you asked specifically, and I'll just say Cat Williams was not there. We have no reason to believe that he was ever involved in any way, shape, or form.
I know we're still early on in the investigation, but as you said, this is an incident that had a lot of public attention. Do you have a timeline on when in the investigation or court proceedings that we can learn more about what happened, what led up to this? Like, is there a timeline for that? Do you have yet?
Yeah, so generally speaking, you always have a right to make public records requests. So the affidavit, you should be able to get a copy of that at some point. As far as me talking about the facts, I really don't like doing that a whole lot before an indictment. I would just say there were two people in the house. Obviously, this incident turned violent. The defendant used a shotgun to shoot multiple times at the victim. He used a 12 gauge. The ammo choice was slugs. I mean, other than that, I mean that's a little more information. But and the affidavit does mention that he used a shotgun with the deliberate design to affect death of Reggie Carroll. And I know once you read the shotgun, you're going to have all sorts of visions in your head. And so I'll share that it was multiple wounds. I'm not going to put a number on it before the medical examiner's report comes in, but it was multiple wounds, and the ammo selection was slugs.
Did he resist arrest at all, or he just stayed there?
I'm not going to comment on the behavior. I'll say he was on scene whenever the police are both the deceased and the defendant were both on scene when the police arrived, and the police took the defendant with them, and the body went to the hospital. So I'll take one more if you have any. Otherwise, we'll just call it quits. That's it. All right. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.